Hey everyone, welcome to the CPAPstore.ca. My name is Tristan. Today I'm going to be answering the question, does it matter to use distilled water or normal tap water in your CPAP machine? To save us time here, the answer is yes, it does matter. It is a lot better to use distilled water in your CPAP machine. I'm going to make basically a tier list of waters and talk about each water in this video here. So we have S tier. S tier is the best of the best. That's going to be your bottled distilled water. Companies that distill water have the kind of highest ratings or the most filters and stuff because it's a highly regulated area, especially because distilled water is used in so many different medical applications. So buying bottled distilled water is by far going to be the best in terms of water quality for your CPAP. It's going to have like no minerals in it. It's going to be perfectly pure, no pathogens and stuff like that. So it's definitely the best to use with your CPAP machine, okay? That being said, do you have to use bottled water or bottled distilled water all the time? The answer is no, but it's basically up to your personal preference and your personal risk tolerance. Now I say risk tolerance and it might sound kind of scary and freaky, but I really want to make it clear that it doesn't matter that much. Like, it is best to use distilled water. Your doctor will tell you to use distilled water. I'm going to say use distilled water, but you're not going to die if you're distilling it yourself or using bottled or using tap water for a night. Okay, it doesn't really matter, okay, that much. Now, for the next tier down below bottled distilled water is going to be distilling your own water, or maybe going to your sleep therapist office and getting free water. A lot of sleep therapists offer free distilled water there. So distilling it yourself, and getting distilled water at your clinic. The reason why that's slightly below the bottled water is because typically if you're distilling the water yourself, you're gonna have a little bit of mineral deposits in your distiller over time, and depends on how good you are at cleaning it out and how good your distilled water machine is, which is probably gonna be like probably pretty small, pretty cheap. You get them on Amazon for like $100. It's probably not gonna be as good or as regulated as the bottled distilled water. That being said, it is more than okay to distill your own water, and it's very convenient and it's quite cheap to do so. So I definitely recommend distilling your own water. Technically, it's not as good as this, but it's pretty darn good. Now below that in the B tier, we have purified water and boiled water. So if you don't have access to distilled water, say you're traveling or say you're just in a new environment or you forgot to buy it, you can still use tap water. It is better though if you boil it because that's going to kill any bacteria or pathogens that are in the water. You can also use a filter like a Brita filter beforehand and then boil it. That's another awesome example of what you can do if you don't have distilled water. Don't use like an alkaline water filter such as like a Sentivia water filter that has alkalinity, because that's putting more minerals into the water, and that's going to be even worse than just using straight tap water. So you just want to have basically the least amount of things in your water as possible. So check what type of filter you're using. If you're using just a filter that takes stuff out, use that filter, boil that water, and that's going to be totally okay for CPAP use. You can also use purified water, like purified bottled water. That's basically when like the big companies like Dasani or whatever are taking tap water essentially and then purifying that just to take stuff out of it. So both purified water and boiled filtered tap water is going to be our tier B. Okay, and in your last tier of water is going to be your tap water. Okay, so your tap water, just straight tap water, is going to be the bottom tier of water, other than I guess like, I don't know, swamp water. That is because tap water is going to have some like bacteria, minerals, maybe some pathogens, maybe a little like tiny trace amounts of mold or stuff like that, just because they go through the city pipes and are generally pretty old. That being said, obviously going to be totally fine for drinking because our body has the digestive system, and it has the stomach acid and all that stuff to break down any tiny microbe that's going to be in the water. Obviously different when you're just shooting this water straight into your lungs. Your body doesn't have as much hardcore defense mechanisms within your lungs as it does in the stomach and in the intestines and stuff like that. So that's why when you have or using maybe dirty water, you might get sniffles, might get a little more redness, you might get sick, although those cases are a little more rare. What you will find more commonly if you are using tap water is if you have your water chamber like this, you're going to see on the bottom here, you're gonna see some buildup of minerals and stuff like that. So if you are using tap water, just make sure that you are using some vinegar once a week to get rid of those deposits, and also dumping out the water every day and refilling it with new tap water. Don't just keep refilling water. Even if there's a little bit left, do a bit of a rinse and then refill it with tap water there, okay? Now, I guess in this category as well, we're gonna have bottled water. That's bottled water that's like spring or mineral water. We don't wanna have high mineral content. So if you are gonna go with bottled water, try to get some purified water versus mineral water. To conclude, distilled water is definitely the best. You should try distilling it yourself or buying it from a store. But if you can't, if you're on vacation, if you're at a friend's house or whatever, you don't have it, you run out, don't worry about using some tap water. It is totally okay to use some tap water now and again. Try to boil it if you can. Try to filter it if you can. But if you can't, it's okay to use every once in a while. Don't sweat it. One more thing I totally forgot. If you don't use a water vase thing to fill up your CPAP, you're totally missing out. Because if you're filling your CPAP with a big jug like this, it is way more annoying. So I definitely recommend getting a little jug like this. And look at that nice, beautiful stream of water.